Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands.
upcoming tours,
And show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
Week of April 8th, 2024 Solar Circuit.
Why don't we jump to Controlled Chaos, because that's your new one. I'm sure you guys are excited about that. This was an EP that you guys released at the end of last year. I believe that you had one of the guys from Lotus helping you out with the mastering on it. You want to go into a little bit about that and maybe how you got hooked up with Jessie?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, I mean, like I was mentioning, we always invest, we've been trying to invest in ourselves and our skill set. So I mixed the album, I mixed both out. No. The last album I mixed, Pulling at the Source. And then I also mixed Controlled Chaos. For Pulling at the Source, one of the big things for me, like I said, we can't only do so much in house. So even when I do mix it, I seek feedback from other engineers because it can only be as good as your mixing is when you send it to mastering. So for Pulling at the Source, I had a really great experience with Anthony from Papadosio giving me good feedback that helped me level up my skill sets, and then he mastered it. For Controlled Chaos, I again mixed it, but I wanted to seek, as much different feedback and different perspectives. To me is, the better, right? Everyone has different background and different perspectives and skills. So for this one, I mean, Lotus also, being partly here in Philly, has always been a huge inspiration for us as well. So, Jessie has crossed paths with us through mutual friends. And I think we ended up connecting with him through our friends in Wax Future, who also have the Beeswax project with him. So when it came time for mixed feedback, and I was trying to find someone that I really valued their skills, I reached out to Jessie, and he was willing to give feedback and show me some techniques and some advice that he had. And then once they were, the mixes were done, he mastered them and put that extra shine on it. And it was a really, really good growing experience for me, and also, for the band. And it definitely was, we're all really happy with the end product.
Yeah.
What is when you, like Becca or Nick, do you have just like a sketch of a song? Do you take it to the rest of the band, or are you guys more, let's all get together in a room and see what we can pull out of thin air?
Yeah, so I think more times than not, I mean, both definitely happen. More times than not, somebody in the band will bring sort of a skeleton of a song, just a general sketch of an idea. Sometimes it's completely flushed out, start to end. Other times there's just, a couple of riffs, a few chord progressions, and we see what happens. And then we'll bring it down into the studio and just kind of start working through it, just sort of talk through each section as a group. And then everyone's sort of playing around, putting their own feel on it, putting their own spin on it. And then it just sort of evolves from there. And before you know it, you've got something that you can at least record, the band's version of it, and then, take it upstairs, listen to it over the next couple of days, and kind of sit with it and see how it feels, and kind of go from there. Occasionally we'll all just sort of sit down and someone will start playing something and it'll turn into, a full song. And that happens, but a lot of the times they come with kind of a predetermined idea to kind of jumpstart it a little bit.
Yeah. And what's really cool is all four of us are composers. We all really like writing songs, so we all bring songs to the table. And like I said, we all have different influences, so it's just interesting seeing, all four of our different flair come together, and then we kind of make it Solar Circuit-ified.
Kind of even it out a little.
Yeah.
If one of you brings in a sketch, can we talk a little bit about collaboration and how maybe we've heard from people before that what they envision a song as sometimes does not look like what the song ends up as. Do you want to talk a little bit about the trust, I guess, you have to have with your bandmates in order to allow that to happen?
Yeah, that's a thing for sure. Songs have taken like a complete 180 from what they started out as, and that's just sort of something you've got to either accept, embrace, and just kind of go with it. Um, Over the years, we kind of all have figured out everyone's tendencies, I would say. So you sort of know how things will change based on who's listening and what the section is calling for. But overall, I think it's a positive. It's a fun experience to see the song go from something that I had in my head, and then Taylor or Becca or Rob will take their section and just completely twist it. And now it's something totally different, which is something that maybe I would have never even thought of.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of the cool part is take a riff that I make and then, Taylor plays it on bass and now it's a bass line and it's just totally different. I think that's a really fun aspect of having everyone being able to write and compose.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely a good way that you asked the question too. Like there's a trust that goes with it, right? Like sometimes you can get really connected to something that you start to create, and you definitely have to trust that once you throw it out to everyone else that they're going to elevate it. And even if it sounds different than you imagined, you have to just be along, you have to be open-minded about it. So, and I think Nectar is a good example of that too. Taylor wrote Nectar, the original Nectar, and I'm sure he was pretty tied to how that originally sounded, and that had to change a little bit based on just what we knew we needed and what the live environment needed. So he had to kind of trust that and just be open to it. So it definitely happens. But I agree. I think that's an exciting part, that like once you accept the fact that it will change inevitably once everyone gets their hands on it, to me it's the most exciting part. Like hearing it come from a demo to the live version is always like really exciting.
It's fun going back like a year or two later after it's been released, been played out on the road, and inevitably once you play it the first time out on the road, it's a little different by the sixth time you play it on the road. But then a year or two later going back and re-listening to that original demo, original Ableton project to see how it started, sometimes they're pretty different. They can really change. That's fun to see.
Is your perception of what has happened during a show ever like challenged by someone else in the band? Or maybe you hear from someone that was in the crowd and you're like, wow, that's not how I remembered it. Or, wow, I was picking up something like totally different. Because I know you have your soundboards too. Do you all go back and listen to them at a certain point and like review, or how does that work?
Yeah, I know. I mean, Becca mixes everything, so she listens through everything with a fine-tooth comb. But often I'll be sitting with her and listening, and then we all kind of collectively re-listen just for critique of ourselves at some point. Things we did well, things we didn't do so well, cool ideas. Maybe a jam got into a really neat pocket, and we want to take that little 15-second piece of a jam and turn it into something. There's a lot of that. What do you think?
Yeah, and to your question about like, is there a time where someone will have a different impression of what happened? Even it's really interesting how that happens. Like we'll get off of a show and I'll look at Nick and I'm like, that was awesome, and he's like, was it? I don't know, did I play well? And like it's so everyone has their own idea of how things go, like from us and the audience, and it is wild how drastic it changes how things feel for us when the crowd is engaged. Even if it's five people there that are engaged, it like we can feel that energy. Like it's wild. But or if we have 500 people and they're all just completely bored and they have no willingness to be there, we can feel that. Like, so we would rather play to 5 people who are really truly loving it and they're in that experience, because again, that live experience is like it's a journey. It's not like we're just there to play the studio versions. We're there to like be on this journey, and when they're on the journey with us, it's way more fun. But it's a unique impression from how you leave that set, even between us.
The soundboards don't lie. When we go back and listen back, we know.
Yeah, we hear there's a disconnect. People will be like, walk off and be like, that was horrible, and listen to it a week later and be like, wow, we were actually pretty good that night.
Yep.
That happens.
It happens.
Yeah. You can get in your head pretty easy.
You can get in your head, yeah.
So when you're up there and the jam sections, the improv, the sections you leave open in your music to do the improv, what do you guys focus on? Who do you lead the jam with the guitar, or do you let the bass and drums lead it?
Definitely a mix of everything. I think there's certain songs that we know, when the composed section ends, we know that it starts with like, a drum and bass type of vibe. And me and Nick are both melody, so we might, you know, just pause when the jam's beginning, listen to the direction that Taylor and Rob are taking it, and then decide where we need to go. Because it's a lot of like a delicate dance, especially between the two of us, since we're both melody, being keys and guitar. We can't be on top of each other. And one thing that we really like as like our sound is there's of course times where Nick is, soloing and he's on top and he's shredding, and there's times where I'm soloing, but we really like the times where not one of us in the band is on top. We're all just there on top together. Yeah, like very interweaved and kind of cohesive, getting from one place to the next. That's what we really enjoy. We enjoy those jams where we're kind of fluid together. But there's definitely times, certain songs call for different types of jams. If you're coming from a song that is a little bit more, funky or jammy, sometimes those jams end up that way. But then because we need something fresh, you flip the script and you get a little bit more electronic with it. So it really depends on how we're feeling, how the crowd's feeling. I know like you talk a lot about like you can really see like what gets them jazzed up a lot.
You play off them a lot.
Yeah. So if they're really liking Nick's, shredding on guitar, you can tell when the audience is full of guitar lovers, and we're like, all right, keep going.
That a little bit. And conversely, if Taylor comes in with a real nasty synthy bass line and they start going nuts, well, we're probably going to lean into those synthy heavy trancy jams a lot more.
In search of the type 2 jams there, huh? When the whole band's at once.
Yeah,
exactly.
I tried to explain that to my kid once. She was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, most stuff it's the guitar player just up there wanking off for a half hour. Who writes the set list?
We all do. We really kind of before a show, we'll make a list of songs that we know we want to be in rotation for that set of shows. We'll decide maybe what covers we want to throw in, and then so at least we have the list of things that we know we need to be all personally brushed up on. And then sometimes we'll have the set list, to a T written out before the show. Sometimes it's 5 minutes before we're on and we're still tweaking it. That happens more than I like to admit, because
more often than not.
Because sometimes you got to feel the vibe. I know that sounds silly, but like sometimes you don't know until you're there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times where we have a set list written and then we get to the show and we're like, no, totally wrong. Start over. So it depends on how we're feeling. And we also look at what we've played in that, in that city before, so that, hopefully people don't get repeats. So we take some of those things into consideration. So, yeah.
And we'll call audibles on stage all the time. I mean, the set list that you start the set with is almost never the set list that you end the show with. So that's often fun, trying to figure out how to make that all work. Someone may just be feeling that they want to play any specific song, and we try to make that happen.
Yep.
Do you guys have hits? Do you feel like you have songs that people expect from you or want to hear?
I think so. And there's like Moonroof was the single from Pulling at the Source. Yeah. And so that one we definitely get requests a lot, and people like, they know the vocals. I can see them, belting the vocals out with me, and
that's fun.
That one. And then Skyward, which is the single off of the new Controlled Chaos, is another one, another crowd favorite. And so those are ones that stick out as kind of like the more broadly palatable ones. That
we get a lot of requests for Dance Floor is Lava.
Yeah, which was interesting because we kind of put it lower. It's like number track 8 or something on Pulling at the Source, but it actually ended up getting the most plays on the album. For some reason that one stuck out. It's always interesting to see what people like and what we think they'll like, and it's not always we get curveball.
What song was that?
The Dance Floor is Lava. It's on Pulling at the Source.
Okay. Let me ask you, since next year we're getting hit with these guys, what's up with the 17-year cicada? Beta.
That's the
Yeah,
one we were sitting out. So we were sitting out on our back porch one night and listening to these things just going nuts.
the cicadas.
And it sounded like they were building a melody out of, we've got an audio recording of it. So we essentially took that and then kind of tweaked it and made it the melody of the song. But it was funny because it was repeating for like 10 minutes out there, and you could pick out the exact melody. Are you able to find it?
I know. I wish I have my voice recordings up, but I'm hesitant to start going through them because some of them are just going to be me like like random ideas that I have in the middle of the night. But one of these voice recordings is us outside, and I recorded the cicadas because it was something like like they kept doing that over and over. And Nick was like, I feel like that could be a guitar line. So then the guitar line got turned into that. So it all started from cicadas.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, just to be able to take something in nature, morph it a little bit, especially for the style of music that you play, which is, it shows that it all can come together, no matter what. So Becca, I have a question it's for both of you. This is something that comes up occasionally, and it just concerns, in the jam band scene, music in general, the overall lack of female presence. And when you talk about like mixing and like doing all that stuff, like I love doing a lot of things that, I don't always find a lot of other like women are into, and a lot of it has to do with that back end stuff. But how has it been an issue? Do you feel like it's an issue? Like, is it something you think about? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, women are definitely few and far between in the scene, in music in general, in the music industry, and then specifically definitely in the jam scene, heavily male dominated. And in early stages of the band, I was definitely a lot more self-conscious about it. I do a lot of, especially early on before we were on our agency. Now I was doing a lot of management stuff, like all of it. And I would even write emails and sign Nick's name because I just felt like people would take the email more seriously coming from a man. And then I got to a point where I realized, whoa, why am I doing that? I'm doing women a disjustice by doing this. Like, I shouldn't be doing that. And I stopped doing that. And now I approach it more like, yes, there are definitely challenges to it because, when we show up to a venue, more often times than not, I'm pointed to the merch table. And, the venue staff will come up and shake all of their hands and not shake my hand. That happens a lot. And so it can be frustrating, but I can totally see over the last several years, the open-mindedness that's like definitely emerging for women and, people of all genders and identities. And I think it's really refreshing. So yeah, it's definitely challenging, but it's really, really awesome meeting women at our shows that get inspired by just like seeing another woman out there doing art and, kind of doing things that like you don't always fit in with. I'm definitely the only girl on the crew a lot of times when we're with other bands and people. And so it's a struggle, but it's definitely rewarding, like being able to meet people and inspire them.
It's really fun when you look out and watch women out there watching you. And then you come up after the show and you're talking to them after the show, and it's fun to
Girl
see.
power.
We don't see that often enough. Yeah.
So why do you think there are so few women in jam bands in the music industry when women make up over 50% of the people in the world?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I think that rock music, like, in its original decade times was just like very male dominated for whatever reason. And because it was mostly men, I think that it just always, it makes women feel like they can't feel as comfortable stepping into the same room because, it's just, you're kind of singled out. And so I think it just, women didn't feel as empowered to put themselves in those positions. And some like stereotypical things about, guitar, like, guitar being a male instrument, like that's bullshit, any instrument is for anyone. And I think that it just evolved that way. And so women didn't feel as comfortable speaking up and saying, oh, hey, I'm actually interested in that too. But I don't know any other one who is like me who's like that. So they kind of just
My daughter wanted to. She told me recently that when they handed out instruments in 5th grade, she wanted to play cello, but she ended up playing clarinet because she was pushed that direction by the female music teacher.
hmm yeah, it's so silly.
That's crazy.
And she
Yeah.
didn't like clarinets, so she doesn't play an instrument now. She might have been a great cellist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stereotypes out there that I think even people that don't mean any harm by it, it's just like subconscious. It's so rooted into our culture. And I don't know how a lot of it even began, but it snowballed and really excluded women from feeling like they could speak up and be in the same room as men doing things, especially like you mentioned, a lot of the stuff behind the scenes, like mixing and mastering and producing, and all those things are very, it, I even like, even meeting Jesse, I in my mind, I'm like on my way to, have a session with him about his, getting some tips for mixing and mastering. And in my head, I'm like, I hope he takes me as seriously as he would if I was a guy that he was meeting. Those things definitely run through your head. It's just kind of the way that the culture has developed us. But I think that I think it's in the right direction. Like I've seen the statistics have, gone up for women in the industry and in all those type of roles. And I think it's going in the right direction.
Have you heard Octave Cat, Jesse's band?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're
That's
awesome.
fun. So we had them on to talk about that.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of that.
Oh yeah,
They're great.
they're all super talented. Yep.
So what else is in store for 2024? Do you have your eye on the studio, or I guess you have a studio there that you've built yourself, so you're always in it? Are you eyeing releasing more new music this year? Or are you just going to work in the 4 tunes off the last EP?
Yeah, at the moment, there's always being owners of the studio here, we can kind of at a drop of the hat say, well, let's record something. But I think right now, just writing as much as we possibly can during these winter months, I think is where our heads are focused at the moment. We played a lot of shows last year, so we're really wanting to do a bunch of writing and really dig into expanding that catalog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last year we played the most shows we ever did throughout the year, and a lot of traveling. And then we had our festival that we threw in Quakertown. And so by the end of the year, we were like, all right, we need some rest and relaxation. We need to get in the studio for just, get back to the drawing board and start writing. But yeah, I mean, as far as this year, we're right now in the phase of kind of trying to figure out exactly what our strategy is, like to answer all those questions. We're figuring out a new album or EP is definitely coming. We're trying to figure out when. We've always, like I said, because all 4 of us write, we've never had a problem with, not having enough songs to learn. We've always actually had too many songs. It's always been a backlog. So we've always had this long list of songs that all of us have written that we're waiting to learn together, which is a good problem to have. But, we only have so many hours in a day. So right now, yeah, we're trying to get all those songs hashed out so that we can learn them as a band, get them, on a new album or an EP at some point this year. And then lots of more tour dates and festivals and good stuff for, the rest of the year. So we'll definitely be on the road a lot and releasing more songs live and on albums and EPs.
Anything, Amanda?
All right, they're like brewing coffee, literally, I think this wall next to me. It's like right here. I don't think so. I mean, I think we've covered a lot. And I just want to also say just thank you so much for your honest answers to some of those questions. I really appreciate it. And I think a lot of other people will too.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You guys got anything else you want to throw out? Or I think we covered most of getting to know you.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we definitely just keep a lookout for, all the new tour dates coming up, and all of our live soundboards are on Nugs, and we've got, live videos on Nugs as well that are coming, and our YouTube channel's got tons of videos to dig through. So lots of content out there, and the live experience is what we love the most. So all of those live shows are out there to dig deep into.
Okay, well, let me ask you real quick before we go. This made me think of it. I was talking last night on YouTube, this other YouTube thing I do about Bob Weir's using fans now, and Mo is using volume now instead of nugs. You guys stop, I guess, putting your stuff on Bandcamp because you went to put it on nugs. Is nugs a better deal for you than something like Bandcamp?
Deal monetarily.
Either with exposure or any other way. But I when I say deal, I'm thinking of exposure because
Yeah.
you're on the Nugs pages now instead of
It
lost
gets
on
us in front
Bandcamp,
of,
maybe.
yeah, it gets us in front of a lot of like-minded people.
Yep.
The community there
Mhm.
is huge for us.
Definitely a broader exposure net that we're open to now, because if you have the app, it'll show you recommended shows or shows that have just been added. So we've had a lot of people that have reached out being like, oh, I just saw you guys on Nugs, never heard of you before. So that has been good. Bandcamp was nice because it's open for everyone. You don't need to have a subscription.
Right.
Anyone can just click play and listen to it. So it's a little bit more limited now. Now that only people that have the Nugs subscription can hear it. But honestly, there's Spotify. We're on every streaming platform. We're on it, right? So if someone doesn't have Nugs, we're on whatever platform they're on. So it just might not be for the whole catalog. But
Right.
Nugs has been a really good exposure opportunity for us, for sure. Yeah.
We love Brad.
Yeah.
People give him a hard time.
If you are enjoying All That Jam, please like and subscribe to our social media channels at All That Jam Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit our website, allthatjampod.com. Make sure to sign up for our email list and tune in every week for new episodes.
Also, look for full interviews on our YouTube channel. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long.